My name is Harper Vance. I am 28 years old, and I live in Colorado Springs. The fork fell out of Grandma Dorothy's hand. It hit her fine china plate with a loud clack that echoed through the dining room. The laughter stopped instantly. My parents looked up from their roast beef. My younger brother, Logan, froze with his wine glass halfway to his mouth. The Christmas tree lights twinkled in the corner, but the room suddenly felt freezing cold. I was standing up, holding my glass for a toast. I had just said the words that I thought were kind. I had just thanked her for the $500 she sent me to fix my roof. Grandma didn't blink. She looked at me with a terrifying seriousness. Her hands were shaking on the tablecloth. "Harper," she said, her voice very quiet but very clear, "I didn't send you $500. I smiled nervously. I thought maybe she was joking. "I got it on Tuesday, Grandma. It really helped, thank you." She stood up slowly. She looked directly into my eyes. "I sent you $200,000, she said. My heart stopped. I looked at my phone. My banking app showed a deposit of exactly $500. I looked back at her. Grandma looked around the table. She looked at my mother. She looked at my father. Finally, her eyes landed on my brother. "Someone sitting at this table," she whispered, "knows exactly where the rest of that money went." But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Harper Vance. I am 28 years old. To understand why that dinner was so shocking, you have to understand where I was 2 months ago. You have to understand the cold. I live in Colorado Springs. The winters here are not a joke. They are hard and they are heavy. I bought my house 3 years ago. It is a small house. It has 2 bedrooms and a small porch. It isn't a mansion, but it is mine. I worked double shifts for 5 years to save the down payment. I didn't take a dime from my parents. I did it on my own. I was proud of that house. But nature doesn't care about your pride. It happened in late October. We got a storm that nobody predicted. It wasn't just snow. It was heavy, wet slush that turned into ice as soon as the sun went down. I was sleeping when I heard the noise. It sounded like a gunshot, but deeper. It was a loud crack that vibrated through the floorboards. I sat up in bed. My breath was visible in the air. The heat was on, but the house felt different. It felt exposed. I put on my robe and walked into the hallway. I stepped in a puddle. The water was freezing. I looked up. The ceiling in the hallway was sagging. The drywall was wet and gray. As I watched, a drop of water fell right onto my forehead. I ran to the kitchen to get a bucket. By the time I came back, the drip was a stream. The roof had given way under the ice. The next morning was a nightmare. I called 5 different roofing companies. Only one picked up. His name was Mike. He came out in his truck, climbed up a ladder, and came back down 5 minutes later. He took off his hat and looked at me with pity. "It's bad, Harper," he said. "The main beam is cracked. The ice dam pushed water under the shingles and rotted the wood. We can't just patch this. You need a structural repair and a new roof." I felt sick. "How much?" I asked. Mike looked at his clipboard. He did some math. "Materials are up right now. Labor is tight. I can do it for $18,000. That's the friends and family price." $18,000. I nodded calmly like it was no big deal. I shook his hand and thanked him. I watched him drive away. Then I went inside, sat on my wet floor and cried. I checked my savings account. I had exactly $4,000. I had an emergency fund, but my car had broken down in August, and that took half of it. I had $4,000 to fix an $18,000 problem. I tried everything. I went to the bank the next day to ask for a loan. The loan officer was a nice lady named Sarah. She typed on her computer for a long time. Then she frowned. "I'm sorry, Harper," she said. "Your debt-to-income ratio is a little high because of your student loans. And with the economy the way it is right now, the bank is tightening up. We can't approve a personal loan of that size without a cosigner." I left the bank feeling small. The wind was biting my face. I needed a cosigner. I called my parents that night. I didn't want to. My parents and I have always had a complicated relationship. They love me, I suppose, but they don't see me. They see Logan. Logan is my younger brother. He is 26. He is charming, handsome, and completely irresponsible. I called my dad first. "Hey, Dad," I said, "I have a problem. My roof collapsed." "Oh, that's terrible, honey," he said. I could hear the TV in the background. He was watching football. "It's going to cost $18,000 to fix," I said. "I have 4. I just need a cosigner for a loan. I'll pay every cent. I just need your signature." There was a pause. Harper, you know business has been slow, he said. My parents own a small hardware store. Your mom and I are stretched thin right now. We just had to help Logan with his car payments. He was behind 3 months. We can't put our credit on the line right now. Dad, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I have water coming into my hallway. It's freezing in here. Put up some plastic sheets, he suggested. It'll hold until spring. Just work some extra shifts. You're smart. You'll figure it out. He hung up. I stared at the phone. He had just paid 3 months of car payments for Logan, who drives a brand new truck he can't afford. But he couldn't sign a piece of paper for me so I wouldn't freeze. That night, it snowed again. I slept in the living room with 3 blankets. I could hear the water dripping into the buckets in the hallway. Drip, drip, drip. It was the sound of my life falling apart. Finally, I swallowed my pride. I called Grandma Dorothy. Grandma Dorothy is my mother's mother. She is 80 years old, sharp as a tack, and she has no patience for nonsense. She lives in Florida now, in a nice condo. She has money. Grandpa was a smart investor, and when he passed, he left her very comfortable. I called her on a Tuesday. Grandma, I said. Harper, she sounded delighted. I was just thinking about you. How are you? I broke down. I told her everything. The roof, the ice, the $18,000, the bank, Dad saying no. I cried so hard I could barely breathe. Grandma listened. She didn't interrupt. When I was finished, her voice was hard. Your father is a fool, she said, and your mother lets him be one. I don't know what to do, I whispered. I do, she said. I will send you the money. Grandma, I can't ask you for. You aren't asking, she cut me off. I am giving. You are my granddaughter. You work hard. You are a good person. I have money sitting in an account doing nothing. Send me your banking details. I'll wire it tomorrow. I'll send the full amount. Get your roof fixed, Harper, I sobbed. Thank you, Grandma. I'll pay you back, I promise. Don't you dare, she said. Consider it an early inheritance. I want you safe and warm. I sent her my routing number and account number. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest. I called Mike the contractor. Book it, I told him. The money is coming tomorrow. I waited. The next day, my phone buzzed. Deposit received. I opened the app, my heart pounding with relief. I stared at the screen. Deposit, $500, I blinked. I refreshed the page. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe the internet was slow. Deposit, $500, my stomach dropped. $500. That wouldn't even cover the materials for the patch job. I sat on my couch, confused. Had I heard her wrong? Had she said 500 and I just imagined she said the full amount? No. She said 18,000. She said the full amount. Maybe she checked her accounts and realized she didn't have as much as she thought. Maybe she talked to my mom, and my mom told her not to give me that much money. Maybe she thought I was lying. My mind raced with anxiety. I wanted to call her. I picked up the phone to dial her number. But then shame stopped me. How could I call an 80-year-old woman and say, "Hey, where is the rest of the money?" It sounded greedy. It sounded ungrateful. If she only sent 500, that was her choice. It was a gift. I had no right to demand more. I put the phone down. I felt humiliated. Even Grandma, the one person I thought was on my side, had decided I wasn't worth the full help. So I struggled. I didn't fix the roof. I went to the hardware store and bought heavy-duty tarps. I climbed up there myself, slipping on the ice, and nailed them down. It was dangerous and stupid, but I had no choice. Inside, I taped plastic sheeting over the hallway entrance to keep the heat in the living room. I turned the heat down to 60 degrees to save money. I took a second job working nights at a warehouse. I worked from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at my design job, then went to the warehouse from 7 p.m. to midnight. I was exhausted. I lost weight. My skin turned gray from lack of sleep. Every time I talked to my parents, they asked, "How's the roof?" "It's fine," I lied. "I handled it." I didn't tell them about the tarps. I didn't tell them about the second job. I didn't tell them that I was eating instant noodles every night. And I didn't tell Grandma anything. I sent her a thank you card. "Dear Grandma, thank you so much for the gift. It helped a lot. Love, Harper." I thought that was the end of it. I thought I just had to survive the winter. Then came Christmas Eve. My parents' house was warm. Too warm. It smelled like pine needles and roasting meat. It was the picture of a perfect family Christmas. I was tired. My back ached from lifting boxes at the warehouse the night before, but I put on a red dress and a smile. I drove my beat-up car to their house. Logan was already there. His truck was in the driveway. It was a massive, shiny black truck. It probably cost $60,000. He was in the living room drinking a glass of expensive bourbon. "Hey, sis," he grinned. He looked healthy, rested. He was wearing a cashmere sweater. "You look tired, rough night." "Working," I said shortly. "You work too much," he laughed. "You need to learn to relax." My dad walked in and slapped Logan on the back. "Leave her alone, Log. Not everyone has your business sense." I bit my tongue. Logan didn't have business sense. He had asked Dad for money sense. But I said nothing. Grandma Dorothy was sitting in her favorite armchair. She looked frail but elegant. She was wearing a green velvet suit. When she saw me, her face lit up. "Harper," she said, reaching out a hand. I went to her and kissed her cheek. "Merry Christmas, Grandma." "You look thin," she whispered, squeezing my hand. "Are you eating?" "I'm fine," I lied again. Dinner was served at 6 o'clock. The table was beautiful. Candles, crystal glasses, the good silver. We sat down. Dad carved the roast beef. Mom passed the potatoes. We made small talk. We talked about the weather. We talked about Logan's investments, which usually meant sports betting. Then, I decided to be nice. I decided to give a toast. I wanted to acknowledge the $500. Even if it wasn't enough, it was the only help I had received. I stood up. I tapped my glass. "I just want to say something," I said. The table went quiet. "I want to thank Grandma. You know I had a hard time with my house this winter. And Grandma, the gift you sent me, the $500, it meant a lot. Thank you for thinking of me." That was when the fork fell. That was when she said the words that changed my life. "I didn't send you $500. I sent you $200,000. The silence after she said that was heavy. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My mother laughed nervously. It was a high, shrill sound. "Oh, Mother," she said, "you're confused. You probably meant to send that, but you pressed the wrong button. You know how you are with technology." Grandma turned her head slowly to look at my mother. "I am not confused, Linda. I went to the bank in person. I sat with the branch manager. I signed the wire transfer papers. $200,000. She looked back at me. "Harper, open your phone. Show me the transaction." My hands were shaking. I pulled out my phone. I opened the banking app. I handed the phone to her. She put on her reading glasses. She stared at the screen. "November 14th, she read aloud. "Deposit, $500. Sender, Dorothy Vance Trust." She frowned. She tapped the screen. Then she reached into her purse. She pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a bank receipt. She unfolded it and placed it next to my phone on the table. "Look," she said. I looked. The receipt was dated November 14th. It showed a wire transfer of $200,000. Destination, Harper Vance. Status, completed. "I don't understand," I whispered. "If you sent it, where is it?" Grandma looked up. Her eyes were like steel. "Someone intercepted it." "That's impossible," my dad said. He was sweating now. "Banks don't just lose money, it's a glitch. We'll call them on Monday." "No," Grandma said. "We are not waiting for Monday." She picked up her cell phone. She dialed 3 numbers, 9-1-1. "Mom," my mother shrieked. "What are you doing? It's Christmas Eve." "I am reporting a grand larceny," Grandma said calmly into the phone. "My name is Dorothy Vance. I am at 42 Oak Lane. A large sum of money has been stolen." The next 20 minutes were a blur. My parents were arguing with Grandma, telling her she was being dramatic, begging her to hang up. Logan was sitting very still. He hadn't said a word. He was staring at his plate, pushing a pea around with his fork. Then the doorbell rang. The police take financial theft of that size very seriously, even on Christmas. 2 officers arrived. One was a younger man, Officer Miller. The other was an older woman, Sergeant Green. They came into the dining room. The holiday music was still playing softly in the background, Silent Night. It felt sick. "Who called?" Sergeant Green asked. "I did," Grandma said. She stood up. She handed the officer the receipt and my phone. "I sent this money to my granddaughter. She received this amount. The rest is missing." Sergeant Green looked at the documents. She looked at me. "Ma'am, are you Harper Vance?" "Yes," I said. "Did you authorize any other transfers out of your account on that day?" "No," I said. "I didn't even know the money was there." "We need to see your full transaction history," the sergeant said. "Can you open the detailed view on your laptop? The app doesn't show everything." I didn't have my laptop. It was at home. "I have my iPad," Logan said suddenly. His voice was hoarse. "You can log in on that." He offered it too quickly. He wanted to look helpful. I took the iPad. I logged into my bank's website. My hands were trembling so hard I typed the password wrong twice. Finally, I got in. We all gathered around the screen, the officers, my parents, grandma, and me. I went to November 14th. There it was, incoming wire. Plus $200,000. My breath caught. It had arrived. But right below it, with the exact same timestamp, down to the second, was another line. Automatic transfer. Minus $199,500 remaining balance. $500. It was automatic, Sergeant Green said, pointing at the screen. See that code? Auto FWD. Someone set up a rule on your account. As soon as a large deposit hit, it immediately bounced the money to another account. Where did it go? Grandma demanded. The sergeant tapped the line to expand the details. Recipient. LV Consulting came in. The room went silent. LV, Grandma said. Her voice was ice cold. She turned to look at my brother, Logan Vance. My mother gasped. No, that's a coincidence. Logan doesn't have a consulting company. Logan, my dad said, his voice shaking. Logan, look at me. Logan didn't look up. He was pale. Sweat was beading on his forehead. It's a glitch, Logan mumbled. I don't know what that is. Sergeant Green looked at the timestamp again. Ma'am, she asked me, who has access to your online banking? Who knows your passwords? No one, I said. Just me? Do you ever use shared computers? No. Does anyone else ever use your computer? I froze. Yes, every Sunday. I usually have Sunday dinner at my parents' house. I bring my laptop because I sometimes do work while I wait for food. And every Sunday, Logan asks to borrow it. He says he needs to check his fantasy football league because his phone screen is too small. I always let him. I type in my password to unlock the computer and I hand it to him. I looked at Logan. He was shaking. You borrowed my laptop, I whispered. On November 12th, 2 days before the transfer. You said you needed to check your email. Logan stood up violently. His chair fell over backward. I didn't do it, he shouted. You're crazy. Why would I steal from you? Sit down, son, Officer Miller said, stepping forward. His hand went to his belt. This is a mistake, my mother yelled. She threw her arms around Logan. He's a good boy. He wouldn't do this. Don't you touch him. Grandma Dorothy walked around the table. She stood right in front of Logan. She looked small next to him, but she looked more powerful than anyone in the room. The money went to an account with your initials, she said. You are the only one who uses her computer. And you are the only one at this table who didn't look surprised when I said the money was missing. Logan looked at her. His eyes were wild. I needed it, he screamed. The sound tore through the room. I needed it, okay. They were going to kill me. My mother let go of him, shocked. Who was going to kill you? The bookies. Logan was sobbing now. Ugly, heaving sobs. I owe them so much. I didn't mean to take it all. I just needed to borrow it. I was going to put it back. You stole $200,000 from your sister who is living in a freezing house, Grandma said. Her voice was filled with disgust. I didn't know she was freezing, Logan yelled. She always acts like she's so perfect. She's the strong one. She can handle it. I couldn't handle it. I stood there, feeling numb. He didn't steal it because he hated me. He stole it because he didn't care about me. He saw me as a resource. He saw my pain as less important than his gambling debt. Sergeant Green stepped in. Mr. Vance, I'm going to need you to come with us. No, my dad shouted. We can settle this. We're family. Mom, tell them to stop. We'll pay it back. I'll sell the shop. Don't arrest him. It's Christmas. Grandma looked at my dad. Then she looked at me. It is not my decision, she said. It is Harper's money. It is Harper's decision. Everyone looked at me. My mother was crying, her mascara running down her face. Harper, please. He's your brother. He made a mistake. Don't ruin his life, please. My dad looked at me with begging eyes. We'll fix it, Harper, I promise. Just tell the officers you don't want to press charges. I looked at Logan. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the door, looking for a way out. I thought about the cold nights. I thought about the heavy tarps. I thought about the instant noodles. I thought about the $18,000 I needed and the $200,000 he took. I looked at the sergeant. I want to press charges, I said. Harper, my mother screamed. She looked at me with pure hatred. How could you? Take him, I said to the police. They cuffed him, right there in front of the Christmas tree. They read him his rights while my mother screamed and my father wept. Grandma walked over to me. She put her arm around my shoulders. She was the only thing holding me up. You did the right thing, she whispered. But as I watched my brother being dragged out into the snow, I didn't feel righteous. I felt broken. Christmas Day was silent. There were no presents opened. There was no breakfast. My parents sat in the living room like statues. My mother was staring at the wall, her eyes red and puffy. My father was on the phone with lawyers, his voice low and desperate. I stayed in the guest room. I didn't want to see them, but I couldn't leave. The police had asked us all to stay available for questioning. The next morning, December 26th, Sergeant Green returned. She didn't come alone. She brought a technical specialist with her, a man named Detective Reed. They sat us down at the dining table, the same table where Grandma had dropped her fork just 36 hours earlier. Grandma was there too. She hadn't left my side. "We have done a preliminary analysis of the bank records and the device usage," Detective Reed said. He placed a laptop on the table. It was my laptop. They had taken it into evidence on Christmas Eve, but now they were returning it. "How did he do it?" I asked. My voice sounded hollow. "It wasn't a hack," the detective said. "Not in the traditional sense. He didn't break in from the outside. He had the keys." He opened the laptop and turned the screen toward us. "On November 12th, at 2:15 p.m., someone accessed your online banking portal from this machine. We matched the IP address. It was logged in right here on this Wi-Fi network. November 12th, that was a Sunday. The Sunday I was here for dinner. The Sunday Logan borrowed my laptop to check his fantasy football. Once he was in," the detective continued, "he didn't just transfer money. He set up a protocol. It's a feature usually used by businesses to sweep excess cash into savings accounts. He set a rule. Any incoming wire transfer over $5,000 is to be immediately rerouted to account X. He planned it," I whispered. "Yes," Detective Reed said. "He knew the money was coming. He set the trap and waited for it to arrive. The moment the funds hit your account, the system recognized the amount and triggered the transfer. It took 3 seconds. That's why you never saw it. The banking app on your phone only updates every few minutes. By the time you checked, the money was already gone." My mother started to cry again. "He was desperate," she sobbed. "He's not a criminal. He just got in over his head." Sergeant Green looked at my parents. Her expression was hard. "Mr. and Mrs. Vance," she said, "we found something else in Logan's text messages. Messages between him and you." My father went pale. He stopped rubbing his face and looked down at his hands. "We found a text from Logan to you, Mr. Vance, dated October 30th. He wrote, 'They're going to break my legs if I don't pay up. I need another $5,000. And you replied, 'I'll send it, but this is the last time.'" The room went dead silent. I looked at my father. "You knew," he didn't answer. "You knew he was gambling," I asked, my voice rising. "You knew he was in debt." "We didn't know it was this bad," my dad whispered. "We thought it was just poker games, sports betting. We thought he owed a few thousand." "How much did you give him?" Grandma asked. Her voice was sharp like a whip. My father sighed. He looked like a defeated man. "Over the last year, maybe 40,000. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. $40,000. 2 months ago, I called my father begging for a cosigner on an $18,000 loan so my roof wouldn't collapse. He told me business was slow. He told me they were stretched thin. He told me to put up plastic sheets. But he had $40,000 for Logan. "You told me you had no money," I said. I stood up. I was shaking. "When I called you in October, when I was freezing, you told me you couldn't help. You said business was bad." "Harper, try to understand," my mother pleaded. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Logan was in danger. These people, they are dangerous. We were scared for his safety. You were just cold. You were safe, you're strong, you always figure things out." "I was cold," I repeated. "I was living in a house with a hole in the roof. I was working 2 jobs. I was eating instant noodles." "We knew you would be okay," my mom shouted. "You're the responsible one. Logan isn't like you. He needs help. He's fragile." "He is a thief," Grandma yelled. She slammed her hand on the table. "And you are enablers. You let your daughter suffer so you could fund your son's gambling addiction." "We were protecting him," my dad argued. "And who protected Harper?" Grandma asked. Nobody answered. I looked at them. I really looked at them. For years, I thought I was just unlucky. I thought maybe I was just imagining that they loved him more. But it wasn't my imagination. It was math. They invested $40,000 in his mistakes and $0 in my safety. "He didn't just steal Grandma's money," I said quietly. "He stole my life. He knew I needed that money for the house. He knew, and he took it anyway." "He intended to pay it back," my mom insisted. "He told us. He had a system. He was going to win it back and return the money before anyone noticed." "That is not how theft works, Mrs. Vance," Sergeant Green said coldly. And that is not how gambling works. The detective stood up. We have enough to upgrade the charges. This was premeditated wire fraud and identity theft. We'll be in touch. They left. I stood there in the dining room. My parents were weeping, holding each other. They were mourning their son. They weren't looking at me. They weren't apologizing to me. They were just sad that Logan got caught. I walked out of the room. I went to the guest room, packed my bag, and walked to the front door. Harper, where are you going? My dad called out. Home, I said. But the roads are icy, he said. Stay here, it's safer, I laughed. It was a dry, bitter sound. I am never safe here, I said. I walked out the door. I didn't look back. I drove home, but I couldn't settle down. My mind was racing. My mother said Logan had a system. She said he planned to win it back. But the detective said he had set up an automatic forwarding rule. That didn't sound like a panicked gambler making a mistake. That sounded like a cold, calculated operation. I needed to know the truth. Not the police version, not my parents' version. I needed to see it myself. I had a key to Logan's apartment. He gave it to me a year ago when he went on vacation so I could water his plants. I never gave it back. I drove to his building. It was a nice building downtown, much nicer than my house. He paid rent he couldn't afford to keep up appearances. I let myself in. The apartment smelled like stale pizza and expensive cologne. It was messy. Clothes were thrown over the couch. Takeout boxes were piled on the counter. I walked into his bedroom. On his desk, there were 3 monitors set up. It looked like a stock trader's station. This was where he played his games. I sat down in his chair. The computer was off, but I guessed his password. It was Logan Vone. He was never very creative. The screen flickered to life. The desktop was covered in files, but one folder stood out. It was named the big one. I clicked it. Inside was a spreadsheet. I opened it. My breath hitched. It was a list of debts, but it wasn't just gambling. It was everything. Credit cards, $22,000 bookie, Mikey, $14,000 car loan, $55,000 personal loan, mom and dad, $40,000. The total was nearly $130,000. He wasn't just in debt, he was drowning. But then I saw the tabs at the bottom of the spreadsheet. One was labeled targets. I clicked it. There was a list of names, family members. Mom and dad tapped out. Uncle Ben, suspicious, won't lend. Harper, good credit, trusting. Possible cosigner, Grandma Dorothy, the whale. I stared at the words. The whale, that's what he called our grandmother. Next to Grandma's name, he had written notes. Assets, approx $2 million. Vulnerability, loves Harper, will send money if Harper asks. I felt sick, he knew. He knew Grandma would help me. He had been waiting for me to ask her. I closed the spreadsheet and opened a text file named Script. It was the code the detective had talked about. I don't know much about computers, but I could read the notes he left for himself. Step 1, get access to Harper's laptop, Sunday dinner. Step 2, install auto-forward script on banking portal. Step 3, set trigger amount to $5,000. Step 4, create offshore holding account. He had pasted a link to a website, Cayman Islands LLC setup, and then, at the bottom of the document, there was a note in bold, typed in all caps. Note, test with small amount first. If SHE doesn't notice $50 missing, she notice the redirect until it's too late. He had tested it. I remembered a few weeks ago, I thought I had lost $50. I thought I had spent it on gas and forgot to log it. He had stolen $50 from me just to see if the pipe worked. This wasn't desperation. This was a heist. He wasn't a sad boy who made a mistake. He was a predator. He had analyzed us. He had labeled us. He had planned exactly how to use Grandma's love for me to get rich. I took out my phone. I started taking pictures. I photographed the spreadsheet. I photographed the targets list. I photographed the whale note. I photographed the Cayman Islands account number. My hands were steady now. The sadness was gone. It was replaced by a cold, hard anger. I found one last thing. A piece of paper under his keyboard. It was a handwritten list of things he was going to buy. Pay off Mikey, $14,000. First class trip to Vegas, $5,000. New rims for truck, $3,000. Watch, $10,000. He wasn't even planning to pay off the full debt. He was going to steal $200,000, pay off the bookie to stop the threats, and then go to Vegas to party with the rest. He was going to leave me with a broken roof and a broken heart while he bought a watch. I took the paper. I walked out of the apartment. I sat in my car and emailed every single photo to Sergeant Green. Then I dialed the detective's number. "Sergeant Green," I said when she answered. "It's Harper. Harper, is everything okay?" "No," I said, "but I have evidence. He didn't just do this on a whim. He's been planning to rob Grandma for months. I just sent you the proof. We'll look at it immediately." "One more thing," I said. "Yes, my parents said he was going to pay it back. I found his spending list. He was going to Vegas. He was never going to pay it back." There was a pause on the line. "Thank you, Harper. This changes things. This proves malice. It will help the prosecutor a lot." I hung up. I looked up at the apartment building one last time. I thought about the brother I used to play tag with. I thought about the brother I defended on the playground. That brother didn't exist. Maybe he never existed. There was only Logan Vance, the con artist, and I was done being his victim. I started the car. I had one more thing to do. I had to show my family what I found. I had to break the illusion once and for all. I drove to my parents' house. The roads were still icy, but I didn't feel the cold anymore. My hands were tight on the steering wheel. I felt a fire burning in my chest. It was the fire of truth. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw it. The shiny black truck was back. Logan was there. Of course he was. My parents had bylaid him out. It had been less than 48 hours since he was arrested on Christmas Eve, and he was already out. They probably used the equity in their house or drained their retirement accounts to post his bail. They couldn't stand to see their precious boy in a cell for even 2 days. I turned off the car. I grabbed my phone. I had the photos. I had the evidence. I walked to the front door. I didn't knock. I used my key and pushed the door open. The living room was quiet. My parents were sitting on the couch. Logan was sitting in the recliner, wrapped in a blanket. He looked pathetic. He was drinking hot cocoa. My mother was rubbing his back, whispering soft things to him. "It's okay, honey," she was saying. "We'll get a good lawyer. It was all a misunderstanding." They looked up when I walked in. The room went silent. "Harper," my dad said. He sounded tired. "We didn't expect you back." "I see Logan is home," I said. My voice was very calm. It scared me how calm I sounded. "We posted bail," my mom said defiantly. She lifted her chin. "He is innocent until proven guilty. We aren't going to leave him in that place with criminals." "He is a criminal, Mom," I said. "Don't start," Logan groaned. He didn't look at me. He stared at the TV, which was turned off. "I've had a rough couple of days, just leave me alone." "A rough couple of days," I laughed. "I've had a rough couple of months, Logan, remember, when I was freezing." "Harper, please," my dad said. "We are trying to heal as a family. If you are here to yell, please leave." "I'm not here to yell," I said. "I'm here to watch TV." I walked over to the large flat-screen TV on the wall. I pulled out my phone. "What are you doing?" Mom asked. "I went to Logan's apartment," I said. Logan froze. He sat up straight. The blanket fell off his shoulders. "You did what? You have no right. That's my privacy." "You gave me a key," I reminded him. "And you used my laptop to steal $200,000. So I think we are past privacy." I tapped my phone screen and connected it to the TV via AirPlay. "I found some interesting things on your computer, Logan," I said. "I think Mom and Dad need to see them." "Stop," Logan yelled. He tried to stand up, but he was clumsy. "Dad, tell her to stop." "Sit down, Logan," I said sharply. The first image popped up on the giant screen. It was the spreadsheet. The font was huge and clear. "Total debt, $129,000. My parents gasped. "What is that?" my dad whispered. He stood up and walked closer to the TV. "That is the real number," I said. "Not the few thousand he told you about. He owes $129,000. I swiped to the next photo. The list of creditors. Mikey the bookie, $14,000. Credit cards, $22,000. Car loan, $55,000. "My God," my mother breathed. She put her hand over her mouth. "Logan, you said it was just a little bit." Logan didn't answer. He was pale. He was shaking his head, looking at the floor. "But that's not the worst part," I said. "The worst part is the targets list." I swiped again. The screen filled with the list of names. Mom and Dad, tapped out. Harper, good credit, possible cosigner. Grandma Dorothy, the whale. The whale, I read aloud. I pointed at the screen. "That is what he calls Grandma, his own grandmother. The woman who fed him cookies. The woman who paid for his summer camp. To him, she isn't a person. She is a giant fish to be hunted." My dad looked at Logan. "You called your grandmother a whale." "It's just notes," Logan stammered. "It doesn't mean anything. I was just brainstorming." "And look at the note next to her name," I continued. Vulnerability loves Harper, will send money if Harper asks. I turned to my parents. He used me, I said. He knew Grandma wouldn't give him the money because she knows he's irresponsible. But he knew she trusted me, so he waited. He waited for me to be in trouble. He waited for me to ask for help. And then he set the trap. I swiped to the next image, the script code, the Cayman Islands account. He wasn't going to pay it back, I said. This is an offshore account. You can't just transfer money back from the Cayman Islands easily. This was a one-way trip. I swiped to the final image, the shopping list. Vegas trip $5,000, new rims $3,000, watch $10,000. He was going to Vegas, I said. He was going to take Grandma's money, pay off his bookie so his legs wouldn't get broken, and then he was going to party with the rest. He was going to buy a $10,000 watch while I was taping plastic sheets to my ceiling. The room was deadly silent. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I looked at my mother. I waited for her to scream at him. I waited for her to slap him. I waited for her to finally see him for what he was. My mother looked at the screen, then she looked at Logan. Her eyes were filled with tears. She walked over to him. She sat down on the arm of his chair and put her arm around him. "Oh, my poor baby," she whispered. "You must have been so scared." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. "Scared?" I said. I couldn't believe my ears. "Mom, look at the screen. He planned to rob us. He planned to go to Vegas. He was under pressure." My mother snapped at me. She looked at me with real anger. "Can't you see that? He was writing fantasies because he was terrified. These people were threatening him. He was just trying to cope." "He wasn't coping," I yelled. "He was stealing." "He's sick, Harper," my dad shouted. He stepped between me and Logan. "Gambling is a disease. He needs help. He doesn't need his sister persecuting him like a lawyer." "I am not persecuting him," I said. "I am showing you the truth." "We see the truth," Dad said. "We see a young man who made terrible mistakes because he was desperate. And we see a sister who is kicking him when he is down." I stared at them. It was a moment of absolute clarity. It was like a light switch had been flipped in my brain. Nothing he did would ever be enough to make them leave him. And nothing I did would ever be enough to make them choose me. If he had burned my house down, they would have said he was just trying to stay warm. If he had killed someone, they would have said it was self-defense. They were sick. They were just as sick as he was. They were addicted to saving him, and to do that they had to sacrifice me. I was the fuel for their fire. "You don't care," I said softly. "You don't care that he hurt me." "We care," Mom cried. "But you are strong. You can take care of yourself. Look at you, you're standing there so high and mighty. Logan is broken. We have to help the one who is broken." "He is broken because you never let him face a consequence in his life," I said. "And I am strong because I never had a choice." Logan looked up from his mother's shoulder. He looked at me, and for a second, just a split second, I saw a smirk on his face. He knew he had won them. He knew he could do anything and they would still protect him. "Get out," Logan said. "What?" I asked. "Get out of my house," he said. "This is Mom and Dad's house, and they want you to leave." I looked at my parents. They didn't tell him to shut up. They didn't correct him. They just looked at me with sad, disappointed eyes. "Maybe it's best if you go, Harper," Dad said. "Just for now, until things calm down. You're just upsetting everyone." I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said, "I'll go." I disconnected my phone from the TV. The screen went black. "But before I go," I said, "there is one more thing you should know." "What?" Mom asked, annoyed. "I sent these photos to the detective before I came here." The color drained from my father's face. "You did what?" he whispered. "I emailed them to Sergeant Green," I said, "about 20 minutes ago." "Why would you do that?" my mother screamed. She jumped up from the chair. "We laid him out. We are handling it. Why do you want to destroy this family?" "I didn't destroy this family," I said. "Logan did, and you helped him." "Call her back," Dad yelled. He was panic-stricken. "Harper, call the detective right now. Tell her it was a mistake. Tell her you made those images. Tell her anything." "No," I said. "He will go to prison." Mom shrieked. She grabbed my shoulders and shook me. "Do you hear me? Federal prison, for years. He won't survive in there. He's a soft boy." "He's not a boy," I said, pulling her hands off me. "He is 26 years old, and he is not soft. He is a predator." "I have no daughter," my mother spat the words at me. Her face was twisted and ugly. "If you don't fix this, if you let them take him away, I have no daughter." I looked at her. I looked at the woman who gave birth to me. I looked at the woman I had tried to please my whole life. I remembered making her birthday cards. I remembered trying to get good grades so she would smile at me the way she smiled at Logan. I remembered the cold nights in my house, waiting for her to call and ask if I was okay, but the call never came. "You haven't had a daughter for a long time," I said quietly. "You've only had a spare part. You only kept me around in case Logan needed something." "That is not true," Dad shouted. "It is true," I said. "You gave him $40,000 while I froze. You bailout him out today with money you probably don't have, and now you are asking me to lie to the police to save him." I took a deep breath. The air in the room felt toxic. I needed to get out. "I am done," I said. "What does that mean?" Dad asked. "It means I am done with all of you," I said. "I am not your daughter anymore. I am not his sister. I am a stranger. Do not call me. Do not text me. Do not come to my house." "You can't mean that," Mom said. She was crying now, but they were angry tears. "You're just being dramatic. You'll be back for Sunday dinner." "No," I said. "I won't." I turned to walk to the door. Just then sirens wailed outside. They were loud, and they were close. My mother ran to the window. "No," she sobbed. "No, no, no." Blue and red lights flashed through the front window, illuminating the living room in bursts of color. There was a heavy pounding on the front door. "Police, open up." My father looked at me with pure hatred. "You did this," he hissed. "You traitor." I didn't say anything. I just stood there. Dad opened the door. Sergeant Green was there, along with 2 other officers and 2 men in suits, FBI agents. "Logan Vance," Sergeant Green said, stepping into the hallway. "We have a warrant for your arrest." "He's out on bail," my dad argued, trying to block the way. "We paid the bond." "That bail is revoked," one of the FBI agents said. He stepped forward. "We have received evidence that the suspect has established offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. That makes him a significant flight risk. He is also being charged with wire fraud across state lines. This is a federal case now." My mother screamed. It was a guttural, animal sound. She ran to Logan and threw her arms around him, trying to shield him with her body. "Don't take him," she wailed. "He wasn't going to run. He's a good boy." Logan was shaking violently. He looked at the FBI agents and the arrogance was gone. The smirk was gone. He looked like a child who had realized the game was over. "I didn't mean it," he sobbed into his mother's shirt. "I didn't mean to set up the account. It was just an idea." "Get up, son," the agent said. The officers moved in. They gently but firmly pulled my mother away. She fought them. She scratched at their arms. "Ma'am, step back or you will be arrested for obstruction," Sergeant Green warned. Dad grabbed Mom and held her back. She collapsed in his arms, weeping uncontrollably. They pulled Logan out of the chair. They cuffed his hands behind his back. This time, they used metal leg shackles too. Logan looked at me as they walked him to the door. "Harper, please," he begged. His nose was running. He looked pathetic. Tell them I'm your brother. Help me." I looked him in the eye. "I don't have a brother," I said. He flinched like I had slapped him. The officers marched him out into the snow. The cold air rushed into the house, chilling the warm living room. I watched them put him into the back of a black SUV. I turned back to my parents. They were huddled together on the floor. My mother was rocking back and forth. My father was staring at the wall, his face gray. "Get out," my father whispered. "I'm leaving," I said. "I hope you die," my mother whispered. She didn't look at me. "I hope you die alone and cold." It hurt. I won't lie. It felt like a knife in my heart. But the pain was different this time. It wasn't the pain of hoping for love and not getting it. It was the pain of cutting off a gangrenous limb. It hurt, but it was necessary to survive. "I won't die alone," I said, "and I will never be cold again." I walked out the front door. I walked past the police cars. I walked past the black SUV where my brother was crying. I got into my car. I took a deep breath. The air in my car was freezing, but I turned the key and the engine roared to life. The heater kicked on. I drove away. I watched the house disappear in my rearview mirror. The house where I grew up. The house where I learned that I wasn't enough. I drove until the house was just a speck, and then I drove until it was gone completely. I didn't go home immediately. I drove to the nursing home where Grandma was staying temporarily while the investigation was ongoing. She didn't want to be alone in her condo. I walked into her room. She was sitting by the window, reading a book. When she saw me, she put the book down. She saw my face. She saw the red eyes, the exhaustion, the strange calmness. "Is it done?" she asked softly. "It's done," I said. "They took him, the FBI." Grandma nodded slowly. She didn't look happy. She looked sad but resigned. "And your parents? They chose him," I said. Even at the end, they told me they have no daughter. Grandma stood up. She walked over to me. She is a small woman, but her hug felt stronger than iron. She held me tight. They are wrong, she whispered into my ear. You are the best of them. You are the only one of them worth anything. I started to cry then. I hadn't cried in front of my parents. I hadn't cried in front of the police. But in the safety of Grandma's arms, I let it go. I have no family, Grandma, I sobbed. You have me, she said fiercely. And that is enough. We will build a new family, a better one. We sat there for a long time. The sun went down outside the window, painting the snow purple and blue. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It was an emptiness, yes. The space where my parents and brother used to be was now a crater. But the crater was clean. The infection was gone. I was 28 years old. I had $4,000 in the bank. My roof was still broken. But for the first time in my life, I was free. The next 6 months were a slow-motion car crash. But I wasn't in the car. I was watching from the sidewalk, safe behind a glass wall. The FBI investigation was ruthless. Once they started looking at Logan, they didn't stop. They found everything. It turned out the offshore account wasn't his only crime. He had been opening credit cards in my parents' names for 2 years. He had even taken out a small business loan using my dad's hardware store as collateral, forging my dad's signature. The trial was short. The evidence I provided, the spreadsheet, the photos of his computer, the whale note was damning. His lawyer tried to argue that he was a gambling addict who needed rehab, not prison. But the federal prosecutor held up the picture of the offshore account setup and the Vegas spending list. This is not addiction, the prosecutor said. This is calculated greed. Logan pleaded guilty to avoid a longer sentence. He got 7 years in federal prison. 5 years mandatory before he could even be considered for parole. He was also ordered to pay restitution, every penny of the $200,000, plus fines. When the judge read the sentence, I wasn't there. I read about it in the newspaper like a stranger. My parents were destroyed. Because Logan had forged my dad's signature on the business loan, the bank called in the debt immediately when the fraud was revealed. My dad, of course, couldn't claim it was fraud without admitting he had been negligent, and he refused to testify against Logan on the additional charges. So, the bank came for the hardware store. The business my grandfather built, the business my dad had run for 30 years, it was gone in 3 months. They had to liquidate the inventory to pay the bank. The going out of business sign in the window was the talk of the town. But it didn't stop there. The legal fees for Logan's defense were astronomical. They had hired a high-end criminal defense attorney who charged $500 an hour. They drained their savings. Then they drained their retirement funds. Then they took a second mortgage on the house. By May, the for sale sign was up in the front yard of my childhood home. I heard through a friend that my parents' marriage imploded under the pressure. My mother blamed my father for not making enough money to save Logan. My father blamed my mother for coddling Logan too much. They screamed at each other in a house emptied of furniture. My mother tried to call me once. It was late at night in April. I saw her name on my phone screen. Mom. My thumb hovered over the decline button. I thought about answering. I thought maybe she wanted to apologize. Maybe she wanted to say she missed me. But then I remembered her face on Christmas Eve. I remembered her saying, "I hope you die alone and cold." I let it ring. It went to voicemail. I listened to it later. "Harper," she sounded drunk. Her voice was slurred. "Harper, you need to help us. We're losing the house. We need money. You're working, right? You have Grandma's ear. Talk to her. Tell her to stop being so cruel. We're family. You owe us." She didn't ask how I was. She didn't say sorry. She just said, "Give me money." I deleted the voicemail. Then I blocked the number. I blocked my dad's number too. It was strange. I expected to feel guilty. I had been trained since birth to feel guilty for everything. But I didn't. I felt light. I fixed my roof in February. Grandma insisted on paying for it directly this time. She hired a different contractor, a reputable company. They came in, tore off the rot, and built a beautiful new roof. It was sturdy, it was strong. When the first snow of March fell, I sat in my living room with a cup of tea. It was warm. The ceiling was dry. There were no buckets in the hallway. I realized then that my parents were like that old roof. They were rotting from the inside, and they were leaking toxicity into my life. I had been trying to patch them up with tarps and buckets for years. But you can't fix rot. You have to tear it out and build something new. July brought heat to Colorado. The snow melted and the mountains turned green. Grandma Dorothy called me on a Tuesday afternoon. "Harper," she said, "put on a nice dress. I'm taking you to lunch." I met her at a fancy bistro downtown. She looked good. She had lost a little weight from the stress of the winter, but her eyes were bright. She was wearing a sharp blue suit. We ate salads and drank iced tea. We talked about my job. I had just been promoted to senior designer at my firm. We talked about her garden. When the check came, Grandma pulled a thick envelope out of her purse. She placed it on the table between us. "This isn't money," she said, seeing my hesitation. "Open it." I opened the envelope. It was a legal document. The top read, "Last will and testament of DorothymarieVance." I looked up at her. "Grandma, you don't need to show me this." "Read it," she commanded. I skipped the legal jargon and went to the section labeled Article IV, Distribution of Assets. "I hereby intentionally omit my daughter, Linda Vance, and my son-in-law, Robert Vance, from this will. I also intentionally omit my grandson, Logan Vance." My eyes widened. She had cut them out, completely. I read the next paragraph. "I give, devise, and bequeath all of my property, real and personal of whatever nature and wherever situated, including my investment accounts, my real estate holdings, and my personal effects, to my granddaughter Harper Vance." I put the paper down. My hands were trembling. "Grandma," I whispered, "I don't want your money, I just want you." "I know," she said. She reached across the table and took my hand. "That is exactly why you are getting it." She took a sip of her tea. "My estate is worth roughly $9 million, she said casually. I choked on my breath. $9 million. Grandpa was very good at stocks, she winked. "And I have been very frugal. But Harper, listen to me. This isn't just about money, it's about trust. Money is power, it is freedom. But in the wrong hands, it is a weapon. In Logan's hands, it was a weapon. In your parents' hands, it was a crutch." She squeezed my hand tight. "In your hands, I believe it will be a tool to build a life that is safe. A life where you never have to freeze again. A life where you never have to beg anyone for anything." I started to cry, not because of the money, but because of what she said. "I trust you." Nobody had ever told me that. My parents trusted Logan to be special, but they never trusted him to be responsible. They relied on me, but they never trusted me to be worthy of care. "Why?" I asked. "Why me?" "Because," Grandma said softly. "When the roof broke, you didn't steal, you worked a second job. When the truth came out, you didn't lie, you stood up. You are the strongest woman I know, Harper. And I am honored to be your grandmother." I cried right there in the bistro. I cried for the little girl who tried so hard to be good. I cried for the woman who taped plastic to her ceiling. "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me yet," she said. "I'm not dead yet. I plan to spend a good chunk of that money on cruises before I go, but whatever is left is yours," she smiled. "Now wipe your face. We have dessert to order." We ate chocolate cake. It tasted like victory. A week later, I got a letter from the prison. The return address said Logan Vance. I stood by my mailbox, holding the envelope. The paper felt cheap and gritty. I thought about opening it. I wondered what he would say. Would he blame me? Would he beg? Would he tell me he found God? I realized I didn't care. I didn't care about his excuses. I didn't care about his pain. He had made his choices. I walked over to the recycling bin. I dropped the unopened letter inside. I walked back into my house, my warm, dry, safe house, and closed the door. 5 years have passed since that Christmas. Grandma Dorothy passed away last spring. She went peacefully in her sleep at the age of 86. I was holding her hand when she took her last breath. It was the hardest day of my life, but it was also beautiful. There was no drama. No screaming, just love. The funeral was small. I didn't invite my parents. They found out about it, of course. They tried to come. They showed up at the church doors, looking old and worn out. My father stooped, my mother's hair gray and unkempt. They looked like ghosts of the people I once feared. I had security at the door. I had hired them specifically for this. "I'm sorry," the guard told them firmly. "This is a private service. You are not on the list." I watched from the balcony as they argued weakly, then turned and walked away. They drove off in a rusted sedan, leaving me to say goodbye to the only parent I ever really had. When the estate settled, it was exactly as she said. After taxes and fees, I inherited just over $8 million. But I didn't buy a mansion. I didn't buy a Ferrari. I didn't go to Vegas. I moved to Washington State. I found a small town on the coast, where the mountains meet the sea. I bought a house with huge windows overlooking the water. It has a studio with perfect north light. I quit my job and started my own design firm. I work for myself now. I choose my clients. If a client is rude or disrespectful, I fire them. I don't need their money. I have a dog named Barnaby. He is a golden retriever mix and he sleeps on the rug while I work. I date sometimes. I have good friends. I volunteer at a shelter for runaway teens. I teach them how to budget, how to save, and how to spot red flags. My parents still try to contact me occasionally. They create fake Facebook profiles. They send emails from new addresses. Harper, your father is sick. Harper, we are living in a rental apartment. Harper, Logan gets out next year. I delete them all. I don't hate them anymore. Hate takes too much energy. I just feel nothing. They are characters in a book I finished reading a long time ago. A sad book, but one that is closed. Sometimes, on stormy nights, when the wind howls off the ocean and the rain hammers against the glass, I sit by my fireplace. I listen to the sound of the storm. It used to terrify me. It used to remind me of the cold, the ice, the sagging ceiling. But now it reminds me of my strength. I look at the fire. I look at my sturdy roof. I look at my life. It is quiet here. There is no yelling. There is no lying. There is no wondering if the money in my account will disappear tomorrow. It is a quiet life. But it is my life. I sip my tea and look out at the dark ocean. If you are reading this, and you are the one holding the bucket while the roof leaks, if you are the one working double shifts while someone else gets the glory, if you are the one being told to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, put down the bucket. Let the roof fall if it has to. Walk out the door. It is cold out there at first, but I promise you there is a warmth waiting for you that you can't even imagine yet. The warmth of freedom. I am Harper Vance. I was a victim. Now I am just free. And that is the best ending I could have asked for.